talking about the psychoanalytic theory. In my speech today, I will be starting with the theory with an explanation, and then I'll be ending with the smaller components like the id, ego, and the superego. So do you ever get urges? Do you know what happens in your brain when you do? Sigmund Freud changed our culture as we know it with his infamous psychoanalytic theory. I am a credible source because a previous class taught me about the basics of this theory, and then this assignment has brought me to do further research into the topic. This is relevant because it is proven to be true daily and we just don't realize it. This underappreciation is likely caused by many people who have heard of Sigmund Freud, but very few of us have heard about his theories or know what they mean and how they relate back to us. So the first quote in my article uses the word posits, which just simply means to assume as a fact. Let's go back to Freud, don't we? So this right here is Sigmund Freud. He was born on May 6, 1856, and died on September 23, 1939, making him 83 years old when he passed away. Additionally, Sigmund Freud wasn't a psychologist. He was actually a neurologist, which means he was someone who would treat diseases of the brain and the spinal cord. His psychoanalytic theory deals with the desires and the development of the brain, all the way from adolescence to adulthood. This theory has changed the way we look at our personality and the decisions we make, which actively impacts our culture. From Khan Academy.org, the doctor of medicine, Serena Desiree, wrote, psychoanalytic theory posits that our childhood experiences and unconscious desires shape our behavior. According to Sigmund Freud, the mind consists of three components, the id, ego, and superego. These three structures often conflict with one another, leading to fixations and psychosexual development that can have lifelong consequences. And I have another quote. According to Richard A. Griggs and Cheryl L. Jackson from a textbook we use here at Adrian College in the general psychology class, the id, ego, and superego have become part of our culture. Freud had his psychoanalytic theory divided up into three parts. The first being the id, and that is the part of the personality that you're born with. It's the thing that keeps infants alive. It's what drives their basic needs, behaviors. Or say if a baby was hungry, then they would cry, and then that would trigger that I'm hungry and I need to be fed. So next is the ego. The ego is developed later in life, and this is to find realistic solutions for the id's instinctual drives. It is run by the reality principle, where the id is run by the pleasure principle. The reality principle aims to satisfy the needs and wants of a person in a socially accepted way. The ego also weighs the pros and cons before deciding what to do. For example, if an individual were to cut you off in traffic, the ego is the thing that's stopping you from chasing them down and physically attacking them or doing something that wouldn't be so smart. This next is the superego. It represents one's conscious and the quote-unquote standards of behavior. The morality principle drives the superego. So this is saying that this is like your higher being. And then this is just a little chart that tells you more about the id, ego, and superego. So the id is often referred to as the devil on your shoulder, goes with your instincts. The ego is the reality. It's trying to find socially accepted ways to meet all of your desires, and the superego is the morality principle, which aims to get everything done and do everything as you should, which is socially accepted. Now that you have heard my speech and know about the psychoanalytic theory, I hope you go throughout your day and think about the things you do, and more importantly, like what you don't do. For example, your ID tells you to watch movies and ignore your homework, but your superego says no. You need to go get up early and finish it all now and get it all done and out of the way. But your ego tells you, well, we have time, so why don't we get some of our homework done and then reward ourselves later. Sigmund Freud has changed our culture as we know it with his infamous psychoanalytic theory. This is relevant because the psychoanalytic theory is used every day. You might just not recognize it. I am a credible source because I have taken psychology courses that gave me general knowledge of the psychoanalytic theory. Still, all the research that has gone into this paper makes me even more reliable. In my speech today, I talked about the psychoanalytic theory, starting with an explanation of his theory and ending with the smaller components like the id, ego, and superego. Thank you for listening to my speech. I hope you move forward and keep this in mind because it is interesting to know how and why your brain works the way it does.